Hello, my name is Donald Gibson, and for those of you who don't know me, I'm the CIO and CISO of Augusta Medical Hospital. We're all here together to discuss cybersecurity, and I'm going to take a few minutes of your time to discuss the cybersecurity policy as well as a executive summary of what this cybersecurity initiative entails. I'm going to start off by sharing a PowerPoint with you. Unfortunately, I'm not able to have this at full screen due to some issues with similar shortcuts being shared with the screen recording software in PowerPoint, but I'll just quickly go over this. Again, my name is Donald Gibson. I started here at Augusta about 9 months ago, and I come with 15 years of experience in the cybersecurity field, and I'll walk through with you the steps that I've outlined to bring our cybersecurity to a higher level. We're going to use the NIST framework. What that is, it's a standard framework developed in the US. And there's different elements that we're going to follow. This will make sense in the next few slides. It's better to lead by example. The NIST framework is what we're going to use. There's the NIST framework is broken down into 5 different sections. Those sections being identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. And an element or a category of the identify section is, if you can see it here, is asset management. That's one of the elements. So what that is, it's do we have an accurate inventory of all of our laptops? Do we have an inventory of our workstations? What not only hardware but also software too. We need to know what we need to protect before we can protect it. And going down this list here, we do need to be aware of HIPAA requirements. So HIPAA is it's so important for how we handle data. We need to make sure that our employees are better trained on what compliance means. We need to make sure that that our security is properly in place, as well as need to make sure that we know that if there is an incident, how we handle that incident, how we notify the correct affected parties. My goal is to have Augusta running at a 24/7 system uptime. And in order to do that, we need to upgrade our legacy hardware and software. Currently, there's multiple machines running on Windows 2000. We need to upgrade those to Windows 11. These machines on Windows 2000 are no longer supported by Microsoft, and it's very difficult for the local staff to troubleshoot when there's a problem. We need to make sure that the patient data is available online. That's one of the requirements that we've addressed earlier, but I'm identifying it here so that way I'm providing full transparency on some of the objectives here. The client bills should also be able to pay online. And the goal here is to make our system very resilient. Think of the medieval days. If you just had a castle in the middle of nowhere without a security guard, without a patrol, how secure would that castle be? So we have to implement layers of protection here. So with a castle, you would hire pay villagers a stipend, arm them so they'll protect the castle. You might dig a moat around the castle. That's a physical barrier. That's one level. And what else can we do? We can have a guard who interrogates people coming in and out of the castle. Who are you? Where you're from? What's your business? Etc. Etc. So those ideas, that's what we need to implement. There's not a single bullet solution, a single silver bullet solution for all cybersecurity. It's layers, like an onion. Onions have multiple layers, and a good, strong cybersecurity culture has multiple layers as well. And the goal here, the juggling act that we need to follow, is balancing risk. We want to limit as much risk as we can. Everything we do has an element of risk. So to minimize risk, we need to update update hardware and software. And as many as you know, HIPAA violations are not cheap. They can range anywhere from $100, which isn't that common, to $50,000 per violation. This is, this could be crippling for Augusta if an incident happened where our data got leaked and we didn't properly notify the HHS of the data breach. And there's multiple tiers with the HIPAA violation. We're not going to go into detail here, but just know that there's different tiers, and the higher the tier, the more expensive the fines will be. And the very important part of this cyber initiative is this is teamwork. We have to do this together. It's not just one person making the calls. It's we need to have this grow organically, but also with structure. We need to follow the policies and procedures that I'm working on. Get your guys' blessing on it. Um, Provide full transparency. If there needs to be further elaboration on different sections, let me know. I would love to go into detail more about this. We can do a lunch and learn, or we could, leave after work and go somewhere nice, and I can discuss it over dinner. That's also an option as well. We we can't have rules um, without there being them written down somewhere. So the way how this is done is this is through a policy, a written policy. A written policy is like the law. Um, we agree on standards. I'll provide recommendations and get your approval on it. So we will approve. We'll come to agreement on the rules. Those will be the policies, and then we'll implement them. After we implement them, um, the law per se, we need to have cops, people making sure that we don't speed. We say the speed limit's at 55. We need to make sure that the speed limit is at 55. We do that through auditing, which is another element of this. On a report that I gave on my path forward on my recommendations, some of the recommendations I have is to further develop the acceptable user policy, um, as well as we need to better improve the onboarding and offboarding policy. An example about on the onboarding is not all new employees are aware of HIPAA requirements, as well as when employees leave, not all employees are checked if they have IT assets assigned to them or keys if they're returning those um, assets like how they should. The other is the social media policy. We need to discuss that not users should not have their smartphones out when they're at work taking photos, because there have been instances in the past where photos have inadvertently captured confidential patient information, and that's a HIPAA fine. So it's unacceptable. We need to be very clear on our expectations and start off with a zero phone policy. My recommendation is for the shift workers to put the phones in their locker at the beginning of the shift. They can take it out during their lunch break, and then when they leave, of course, they take it home with them. And the mobile device policy, this was actually lacking. By lacking, I mean I did not see a mobile device policy. My recommendation is for Augusta to provide smartphones to people on call, uh, and have a an internal phone system that where they can share like a paging system. The benefit of doing that is standardization. We can make sure all phones are at the same software version, that they're being monitored like how they should, and if someone lost their phone, we can instantly wipe it remotely. I've also done a deep dive on the network as well. So what I mean by that is we are following this network model called the Purdue model, which is something that we need to keep on following. This goes back to the multiple layers of protection. I won't go into too much detail with this because this can be a lengthy conversation. But just keep in mind that with a strong cybersecurity program, there must be multiple layers of protection. One thing I will mention is data for classification. I did not find this addressed anywhere. Um, Basically, the keep away here is data needs to be secured physically as well as digitally. So we need encryption on the data. If data is in rest, it should be encrypted, and as well as if it's being transferred. If it's being transferred over the network, it needs to be encrypted. That's one of the strong recommendations that we have. In addition, I'll briefly mention the risk assessment. So with the risk assessment, there were some high finding areas that are very concerning to me that we are addressing this, but I just want to let you be full transparent here that there are some serious issues that I found. Nothing is findable at this moment, but we're in a situation where it's you're out for vacation and your house you forgot to lock it and the front door is open. That's kind of how the Augusta cybersecurity currently is. The big takeaway here is we need to do a better job at creating procedures and following procedures, as well as the antivirus is not up to date, and that's a very easy fix to get extra credit when it comes to boosting our cyber score. And the lack of business continuity plan was concerning, or I guess is concerning, and that's something else that we're going to work on later this year. And I suspect we can have a draft done by November and do a tabletop discussion at the very end of December. This is basically going over like if our system was compromised and we had to partially shut down, how do we react to it? Who do we contact? Who gets notified? Who's allowed to send out information? Let me just switch gears here for a moment. I created this cybersecurity bulletin. So the goal here is to, provide communication with our employees here. It's not just one employee we need to make aware of the cyber stuff. We need to make sure that all employees are coming in contact with it. This is going over the top 10 um, vulnerabilities that we see on websites as well as risk that users have to our organization. This goes over also, web application securities. This is a little more on the technical side, the web applications, which applies more to IT. But still, the goal here is to provide transparency and awareness. Um, it's good, for example, go to HTTPS. That's just so the average user knows, okay, there's this thing called HTTPS. I'm not sure what it is, but there's a cyber bulletin saying to go to it. At this point, it's just about building, base level of understanding. And with future bulletins, we're going to fine tune that level of understanding. This isn't going to be something that can be accomplished in a single day or a week. This takes multiple months to have our staff, which is our first line of defense, to be a cyber aware culture. And to give you guys a little more transparency on the network, I'll share with you a network drawing that I documented. This is it's mixed level. There is some high level to it. It does get kind of in the details on the technicality of it. But so what we're doing is we're following the Purdue model. So I'll start at the very bottom. The very bottom is level 2. This is our most secure level. This is where we have these different networks called VLANs. These VLANs allow special communication inside locally. So we segregate the backup software, the security software, maintenance. When we log into the machines to perform maintenance, we try to isolate. We take the divide and conquer approach. And also here, you can see the snort with forwarder. What that means is it's filtering. It's capturing traffic and sending up to the IT side, the IT corporate side on the snort. which is software that allows us to see the event logs on machines, event logs as well as system logs. There's a level 3, which is the supervisory network. This is where uh, keep in mind my background's in oil and gas, so supervisory network might not be a term that we're all used to, but in the oil and gas sector, when they follow the Purdue model, they do call it the supervisory network. Above that, DMZ 3.5. The thought here is there's these multiple layers of security. We don't allow a user to go from level 4 directly to level 3. Each connection requires a hop. And that's basically like the metaphor I gave earlier with the castle. Well, there's multiple layers. There's there's the outside of the castle. There's the inside of the moat. And then after you get into the moat, you're into the first layer of the castle. Then you're in the courtyard. Then you go to the next courtyard, and then you're in the the spot where the king lives. And there's multiple levels is what I'm trying to get at here. And this is what I'm trying to accomplish here with the multiple layers. Of course, typical network, switches, routers, firewalls, access points, some laptops here. Importantly, we want to have multiple levels, but we also want to segregate traffic on each level. That's why we're using VLANs. So as I wrap up this presentation here, keep in mind this is just the first of many. I will mention I mentioned this earlier about the incident handling plan. Um, we This is going to be in a structured check mark procedure where I can hand this procedure to anyone in the facility, and they can follow step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to be very transparent because during an incident, we don't know how many hours our employees are working. We don't know the level of fatigue. Are their minds in the right spots? We want to handle all the difficult questions before we actually have an incident. We also want to make sure that we clearly identify who communicates to who, what format does the data flow in. We want to emphasize the importance of documenting everything at least once a day. We also want to stress the importance of providing full transparency with intercommunication. Each department needs to have a representative be part of this plan, and very importantly, every year this needs to be reviewed. This isn't a document that just sits on the shelf and no one knows about it. No, there's going to be tabletop exercises that's performed once a year, so each department is aware of it, and each department has one representative who's very familiar with it, that went through the process, that knows who to contact, that sends out, that shares the information from the incident plan to their colleagues, and knows that we don't share information outside of Augusta medical system, that we keep information locally. It's only one person's job to communicate externally. And if you're not in the communications department, you don't communicate externally. It's that plain and simple. As I wrap this up, I will say I'm very excited to be helping Augusta with their cybersecurity initiative. This is not a one-time thing. This is a recurring project. Um, the documents that we create are going to be living documents. Every year, they're going to be reviewed. We're going to share them with employees. Uh, my goal is to have it so any employee I can walk up to and ask them, "Hey, I found a USB drive on the ground. What can I do with it? Can I plug it in?" I want My goal is to have every employee to be cyber aware, to make good decisions for Augusta, as well as good cyber conscious decisions at home as well. This doesn't just stop at Augusta. These are lessons that you learn that you can carry and you can apply it at other places. Again, my name's Donald Gibson. I look forward to working with you guys. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.